Thank you, Aaron, and welcome back to Farage with me tonight, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, earlier on today, the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, unveiled her party's proposed terms of reference for the grooming gang's national inquiry.
That a national inquiry must leave no stone unturned. It must investigate councils, the police, and even the government if necessary. It must be time limited, and it must consider the role of ethnicity, religion and other cultural factors.
Well, the inquiry itself has been practically torn apart. It has been unable to find someone to chair it, along with several survivors quitting the victims panel after a row unfolded over the inquiry's scope being drawn too widely. But as many have argued, perhaps it was doomed to fail from the very, very start, considering this was the Prime Minister's original position on having one inquiry back in January.
Calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Jumping on the bandwagon of the far right, but with the inquiry now in a state of total uncertainty, along with the original recommendation suggesting there was a disproportionate number of Pakistani heritage men amongst the perpetrators. Will this inquiry heed the calls of the victims and investigate the role of ethnicity and culture in the grooming gangs scandal? Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Maggie Oliver, the grooming gangs whistleblower and the campaigner. Maggie, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. There's a certain sense of Groundhog Day about today, Maggie, a certain sense of deja vu. Once again, games of politics being played as this inquiry once again seems to have just ground to a practical halt.
Good evening, Martin. Yeah, it's very much like, we're going round and round in circles with this. And I listened to Kemi Badenoch today. They are playing politics with this topic, and caught in the middle of it are victims and survivors who have been desperately fighting for the truth to come out for decades. What I find abhorrent in a way is that we've got Kemi Badenoch now. The Conservatives were in power from 2010 to 2024. And when the last national inquiry reported in over 3 years ago now and made 20 recommendations, they failed to put them into practice. We've got this, ping pong ball between them all trying to score points. I'd like to say, though, Martin, that I don't engage in the noise. The victims and the survivors have got their voices, and Fiona, Elizabeth, Eliane and Jess, they have used their voices very well and resigned. They've had horrendous abuse. But from the perspective of me and my charity, we've just heard today that we are being given leave to appear in the High Court in London on the 3rd of February 26, because we've taken this existing government to a judicial review to try to force them to implement the 20 recommendations that the other original national abuse inquiry ordered. That was 7 years, £200 million. And what I would say, if the Conservatives had implemented those recommendations 3 years ago, we now wouldn't have this national scandal. So they're all playing games with this, but I am not going away until we know the ethnicity. We do know, but what I want is that we record the data from now on with every rape, every element of child abuse that goes on by these gangs. Without the data, without the facts, we are constantly going around this same hamster wheel. And the question has to be, why? Why on earth do we not just get a grip? The whole country knows that these gangs are predominantly Pakistani Muslim men. Now, I have never said that all abuse in this country is by these gangs. Most abuse is in the home. But I have never seen any other kind of child abuse tiptoed around where perpetrators are cherry-picked. There are political manoeuvrings going on here to cover up what has been going on for decades. And the public are sick and tired of what we see. I mean, in 2013, I sent a report to the government, to the Home Office, and calling for ethnicity to be recorded then. That's 12 years ago. And we are still having these same conversations, which are pointless. Let's get a grip, get the facts, deal with it, understand it, and protect the future generations of children. And I have the greatest admiration for Fiona and for all the, Eliane, Elizabeth, for sticking their necks on the block. Because what I believe was happening with this new inquiry, I have great respect for Louise Casey, and I hope that she gets centrally involved in rewriting what is going to come. But what I believe the Labour government were trying to do was to play off one set of survivors against another. Water down this inquiry so that we include all kinds of abuse. And that is not what this is meant to be. We are looking at grooming gangs. It is the only kind of abuse that I've ever seen that has been covered up by the state. Martin, we had cover-ups in the Catholic Church, in the Church of England. But the church themselves covered that up. In relation to these grooming gangs, it's not just been the community from which they come that's covered it up. It's been the police, social services, councils, politicians. This is the only area of abuse that I have seen this happen, and it has to stop. So let's stop playing games. Let's get a grip and do it properly.
OK, Maggie Oliver, we have to leave it there. Thank you once again for your passion and being on the show tonight. Maggie Oliver, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you very much, and a very Merry Christmas to you. Nigel Nelson, I'm joined by you tonight. It's Monday. Welcome to the show. Let's pick up on another story that happened earlier on today, and that is the Pakistani government is refusing to accept back rape gang rapists into the country unless the British government agrees to release political dissidents who almost certainly will face abuse in their country. Nigel Nelson, we saw before the Pakistani government demanded an airline flight pathway be reopened to the UK. A government consistently laying down terms and conditions, and they won't take back their own worst criminals. I say to you, enough of this soft talking, enough of this soft soaping. A strong government would cease all visas today from Pakistan unless they took their garbage back.
Well, I think that's open for a negotiation. It's certainly what Shabama Mahmood is threatening on a number of countries, and Namibia being one, Congo being another.
But these are minnows in comparison.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Has she got the guts to take the fight to Pakistan?
Well, I mean, we've established the principle of actually doing it. So what it means is if people won't take back their criminals, then they won't get visas for their citizens to come here. And in the case that you've just outlined there, that is what should happen to Pakistan. I don't believe for one moment that we would send back political dissidents to Pakistan. So the whole point is, what are they going to do about our criminals, which they ought to be taking back?
But why are they consistently taking the knee, if you get me, to a country that's just laying down consistent terms? It's like, grow a pair. Actually say to them, no. We are going to dictate this political conversation. You have no right to lay down any terms and conditions. Consistent, repeated, systemic rape of white working-class girls by ostensibly Pakistani Muslim heritage men, and we don't have a government with the stones to stand up to them.
Well, we don't know that yet, do we? I mean, this has just happened, and what I'm saying to you is that I cannot believe our government would send back dissidents. Therefore, the next stage is it's in Pakistan's court. If Pakistan won't take back their nationals...
Well, they've already said they won't.
Well,
unless they lay down terms. First, they've got an airline pathway. The government took the knee and bowed to that. Now they're demanding dissidents. That won't ever happen. This is a government that won't deport Albanians who don't like chicken nuggets.
Well, hang on. We've got to deal with Albania. So, I mean, 90% of channel crossings by Albanians have ceased. So the Albanian deal has actually worked. Better to try and negotiate a deal than start being hard-headed about it. But eventually, we have to actually use the big stick, and the big stick would be visas.
Is that ever likely to happen? How many times have we had this conversation? This has been going on now for decades. People are still being jailed this week, for the systemic rape of British girls that goes back to the late 1980s. We know that they are overridingly from these communities in Britain, and we still have the same old conversation.
Yeah, but they've got to be Pakistani nationals before you can actually send them back. So
two of them are. They've rescinded their own nationalities to dodge deportation.
Yeah, in which case we're stuck with them. But if it is a Pakistani national who is a criminal, of course they should go back.
But that doesn't happen.
Well, the law is changing to make sure that it does happen. So we still have to get the country at the other end to accept them, and there's got to be a prison van at the airport to actually pick them up. So there's still a way to go, but we can change the law here, which means that they will go with sentences over a year, and they go immediately. They go immediately on conviction.
Well, hasn't happened yet. Hope springs eternal.